Hello and welcome back to Nerd News Today. I'm Matthew, and in this episode we got some new AEW action figures to take a look at. At long last, this is going to be our look at AEW Unrivaled Series 9. This to me was an interesting wave on paper when I looked at who was in it because it's basically all new characters, and it's a lot of characters I've also been waiting for quite some time. So yeah, when this went up for pre-order, I jumped on it pretty much day one, hour one, possibly minute one, I'm not quite sure, but I was pretty quick to get this because yeah, there's a lot of folks in here that I've been waiting for. And what's also kind of interesting about this line is in terms of star power, kind of really tough to say there actually is a lot of it in this wave. I mean, really, I'd say the biggest name you have here is going to be this figure right here. So let's actually just go ahead and run down who's in this real quick. And starting over here, we have Brian Cage. We have Thunder Rosa. We have Christian, who I believe is the character who has the biggest name power in this lineup, followed by Powerhouse Hobbs, Eddie Kingston, and finally last, but of course never least, Ricky Starks. So in my mind, it's really a lot of fan favorites in AEW and not so much the big names. Christian really is the draw of this lineup if you want to think of it that way. Otherwise, in a lot of ways, it's like some AEW originals who are finally getting their due in action figure form. But before we get too deep into that, let's go ahead and talk about this packaging real quick. And as you guys know, it's basically identical to any AEW figure you've been buying in the past from Jazzwares. At this point, you know exactly what it looks like. Very nice window display on the front that lets you see the figure and see a lot of it too, which I always appreciate. Really nice gold highlighting on that top section there with the logo. And a really nice photo of the wrestler as well on the front. So a lot of information packed into that section there. Really great. I'm always happy with how these things look on the front. And likewise with the back too. I think the backs are always pretty good looking here. So again, we have another photo of the wrestlers along with a fake signature of them, followed by absolutely no bio information. But what we do get, which I think is really, really awesome, and more wrestling toys should do this, hint, hint, Mattel, is that the packaging lets us know exactly where the outfit is that they're wearing came from. So for example, Powerhouse Hobbs' outfit here came from the Rampage Grand Slam event that was held in Queens, New York, the very first New York event that AEW did. This really takes a lot of the mystery out of where these outfits originated from, and I think for a lot of hardcore wrestling collectors out there, that is important information to know. And we also have a small section here across the bottoms of each of these that lets us know who is in the entire Unrivaled Series 9 collection. What it doesn't say is who is the variants in here, which I wish that would be fixed up. But just so you guys know, Thunder Rosa and Ricky Starks are the figures who have variants. But that said, that's the packaging. So let's go ahead and get these figures now out of the box and into the ring and take a closer look at all of them. And here we have AEW Unrivaled Series 9. So starting from the left, Ricky Starks, Powerhouse Hobbs, Christian, Thunder Rosa, Eddie Kingston, and Brian Cage. So this is definitely a group of guys, and well, I should say guys and gal, that I've been waiting for a while, actually. I very much have wanted figures of all of these people, believe it or not. You know, I know Ricky Starks, Powerhouse Hobbs, Christian, Thunder Rosa, Eddie Kingston, Brian Cage. These might not necessarily be like the most sought after characters, I think, at least for figure form, but I really wanted to get these characters. Especially Thunder Rosa, especially Eddie Kingston, in particular Brian Cage, because I'm a big fan of him, but you know, this line, I can already tell there's a lot of ups, a lot of downs, and yeah, I'm gonna let you guys know also, I'm actually starting off this review pretty furious because, yeah, AEW toys have changed their packaging a little bit. So, number one, how the tape is on these toys has changed. That's a little bit annoying, but not a big deal. But what the biggest issue was, and I'll show you right here with Thunder Rosa's packaging, is how they're packing the hands in particular. Because a lot of these characters have alternate heads and alternate hands in this line, which is going to be something I'll talk about. And that's a positive. But how they're packaging them, my goodness, like these things are stuck in there so bad. You know, like the closed fists tend to pop out, but every other hand, I gotta get scissors, I gotta destroy these things. It's basically Massacre on 34th Street every time I get these hands out. And it took me about 20 minutes to get everything out, and as you can see, I'm not done yet. So it took me 20 minutes to open up 6 action figures almost. You know, maybe 15, 20 minutes, whatever it was. It just basically, I don't even know what the exact time was, but the fact is I'm really annoyed because it should not take me that long to open up the packaging for 6 toys. That's a lot of wasted time. And not only that, you know, you might notice right now, we're going to talk about Thunder Rosa up front. Her leg is a little bit funky looking, right? Like this joint over here, it looks a little odd. You know, I just thought that was how it looked in the packaging. Because if you take a look at how she is in our on-packaging display video shots, you'll see her leg, her thigh looks a little janky. I thought I could just probably squeeze it back into place. No, for some reason, it's not going all the way in. We'll talk about that more when we get to Thunder Rosa, I guess, but I'm already starting this review off on tilt. So where do we even begin? I don't quite know. Why don't we just take it with Ricky? We'll start, I guess, as I have them aligned here. So let's go ahead and kick this thing off here with Ricky. And hey, you know what? Since Hobbs is here too, let's go with Team Taz. Let's go with our 2 members of Team Taz that are in this series. So Ricky Starks on the left, Powerhouse Hobbs on the right. Let's start with how I always like to start in these reviews, and that's with likenesses. How are their faces? I think Ricky's is good, but this is a problem I've had with AEW for a long time, and it still is an issue. Something about the paint jobs they do in the faces always makes him look not as good. And this is a great case of that. I don't know what it is, because like the expression is good, the hair is good, but the paint job on his mouth, especially on his little beard thing there, like what is going on with that? It just makes him look wrong. It doesn't make him look correct at all. You know, same thing with the hair too. The hair is just so one note, one dimension. At least the fade is there, but yeah, no, it's just I don't like how the paint is on him. It's not good. It's like he's been smooching a can of strawberries or something. I don't know. The paint just totally throws it off what would otherwise be a pretty good head sculpt. Powerhouse Hobbs luckily does not suffer from that. His head sculpt is great, actually. I think it's a really wonderful head sculpt on him. Looks exactly like him, great expression too. And speaking of, Hobbs actually has come with a second head sculpt. We have a more calm head sculpt here, which I think also looks perfect. This is knocked out of the park. This is a great head sculpt from Powerhouse Hobbs. Both of them, absolutely. The hair is great too. The paint job on his beard is also, I think, very good. Especially on this one, you could see it. Just nice detail. It's not just like one solid stripe of paint like Starks has on his little chin strap there. Like, much more nuanced on the Hobbs figure, for sure. And, you know, with that, too, on his hair, I think they did a great job capturing his hair. Because, you know, people of color, their hair is very different from a white person's hair. And I think they got the texture correct. The color is good, too. I mean, that looks really nice. Whereas Ricky Starks, you know, like, his hair is just so not there. It's just so bland looking and so one note. Doesn't do it for me. Now let's talk about the outfits on these two guys, as well as the body shapes here. So I think that we've seen this body before with some other guys. I don't quite remember for sure. If it's all new, you guys can let me know, because I think there are one or two new sculpts in this lineup here. But as far as like bodies go, I mean, this looks pretty good. Powerhouse Hobbs looks fairly accurate, except for just how odd his choice of body looks. I mean, there we go. We gotta like bend his back backwards in order to expose this part of his stomach. So that's kind of weird. You know, like, I guess it's a tough outfit to do an action figure form too, though. So I am going to be smirching them points for that. But yeah, no, it's just basically the way he is now. It's like he kind of has to bend his back a little bit so you can see his entire singlet the way it's meant to be seen. That's kind of odd. And it also looks a little bit weird too, just because of the way they do their torsos and how the torsos are. By the way, if you don't know, you can just pop them right off. Because of how they are. In the case of Powerhouse Hobbs, there's like this big old diaper line across his waist that's very unseemly, very unsightly looking. No way to hide that either, so it just looks like there's a real obvious joint there, and that's a problem. Whereas, you know, Ricky Starks, it blends in seamlessly, which is great. So, yeah, just a weird thing. I mean, otherwise, though, outfits, they are accurate. They're basically the way they should be based on when they appeared. I really like the boots, especially of Powerhouse Hobbs here, and let's turn these guys around for a second so you can just see more of the details. You know, again, this is Team Taz Hobbs, so he has the nice orange part that looks like Taz's old ECW singlets, FTW there. Yeah, no, these look really great. Like, you know, the outfits, I think, are accurate. It's just the way they incorporated them onto the toy is a little bit of a miss. That's unfortunate, you guys. That makes me sad. I do like Ricky Starks' metallic look, though. I do like this kind of chrome metal look that's on his outfit. That's an A+ part for me. And I guess let's talk about some accessories, too, while we're doing this now. So I already mentioned how Hobbs has a spare head sculpt. He also has an additional set of closed fists, and these are taped hands, which are really cool. And they're not just painted, by the way. These taped hands are actually sculpted to be taped, which is very cool. That's always been one of my complaints with a lot of these types of figures, especially from Mattel, is they just paint them. They don't actually sculpt the tape on, and it looks very different. So I'm so glad that Jazzwares actually took the time to do that. Now, Ricky Starks' accessories include his chain that's around his neck currently, and he also has an additional 4 hands. So we have 2 closed fists, and we have 2 open hands, as well as the hands he has here doing his signature pose. I'm not going to really do a ton of swapping of parts here necessarily. I mean, I know for a fact these parts swap out very easily. I don't really want to do it. I kind of want to keep their hands as is for the time being. It's nice that they have a lot of hands, but again, you guys already heard me complain, like, getting these hands out of the packaging was like such an unnecessary chore. I hated doing it, hated every minute of it. I look forward to not having to do it ever again. But I will next time I get some more AEW figures in here. But, you know, this is going to be a real theme of Series 9, is that everybody has a lot of different heads or hands, and that's actually really great. I like that a lot. It's so good to have that. It really adds a lot to the figures, because we've had a lot of AEW figures in the past where, like, they have nothing. I'm looking at you, Chris Statlander. I'm looking at you, Lance Archer. There's a lot of characters that have had absolutely zilch in their packaging, and that's just a big old thumbs down. But the fact that everybody this time around has a lot of different things is a big, big positive for me, even if they were a pain in the ass to get out of the packaging. So hats off to that. So, you know, as of now, though, as we're starting here with this review of Ricky Starks and Powerhouse Hobbs, you know, I'd say they're sadly a little bit middle of the road. Right now, Powerhouse Hobbs of the two is my favorite. I know there's going to be a lot more figures of both these guys here, and I'm looking forward to them. So I hope they make some more improvements to Ricky in particular, because he really deserves a better figure. I like Ricky a lot. Like, there needs to be a figure of him with his FTW title or something. They need to put some more effort into Ricky Starks, and kind of same with Powerhouse Hobbs here. It's like they're so close to getting him right, but just like the fact that this part of his torso is just so odd and how that works out, like, yeah, that's something they got to figure out how to do. I don't quite know how they're going to do it better, if they can do it better, but I hope they can find a way, even if it just means going a little bit lower over here. I don't know, but I hope they figure it out. And by the way, also, this tattoo here, it's kind of funny looking, because I know it's accurate. It's just this bizarre giant skull on Hobbs' arm there. It just looks really kind of funny in toy form. But hey, at least it's there, and they got it right, so that's cool. Now let's move on to Christian and Brian Cage, which they could be related, because for some time Christian was Christian Cage in Impact after all, so maybe they're actually secretly cousins. I don't quite know. But yeah, so I actually do not have a Mattel version of Christian in my entire wrestling figure collection, and why is that? Don't know. I guess I never really liked many of the figures they made. I mean, I think the last one that they did of him from the Fan Takeover series on Amazon was probably my favorite, and I had it, and I ended up returning it because I just didn't really like it ultimately. So I was actually very excited to get my hands on an AEW version of Christian. And with Brian Cage, here's a dude who I've been waiting for a really good figure of. I don't quite know if we have that here, but hey, at least I've got him, because I was really waiting for him for a long time, and I'm so glad we got him, because, I mean, he was a dude there basically from day one in the company, and it took him this long to get a figure. That's kind of bizarre to me. So the nice thing, by the way, about Christian, too, is he actually is packaged like he is currently posed right now, and same with Brian Cage. I mean, this is basically them right out of the box, and I was able to keep those poses, and I love the fact that Christian can do that pose. But let's go ahead and put that arm down for a second, just because we've got a few other things to talk about here. Again, likenesses. Let's talk about those. I think they're both good. Okay, so I will say, I think Christian's is excellent, actually. Christian's head sculpt is totally there, and the same goes for his alternate head sculpt, because he gets another head as well. They're both very good. These are both very good head sculpts. Like the expressions on them both a lot. Hair is also very good on them. Yeah, just a pair of really wonderful sculpts there. Brian Cage is where we have some problems. So I know a lot of folks from the onset, when they first saw photos of Brian Cage, weren't happy with the head sculpt, more so when they saw the second head sculpt. So yeah, let's talk about these, you guys, because there's some problems here. And I think the problem is, again, like I said, Ricky Starks, not in the sculpt, but in the paint. Because I think this is actually pretty good looking, this alternate head here. I think it's a pretty good version of him. And this Screaming one is not bad either, but I think the fact is, like, the hair is so one note, and in particular, his sideburns are very, very one note. There should be some kind of nuance or something in them. They don't quite look right. I think the skin tone is also a little bit off. Maybe that's throwing off a little bit. The color of his lips and his tongue as well is just weird. It's like Kool-Aid or something is in his mouth. So, you know, it's so close, but it's still so far away, and I gotta tell you now, as we start looking at the bodies of these two guys, that's also where they kind of fall apart a little bit for me. So it's a good news and a bad news kind of situation. Good news, I'm pretty sure Christian is actually a brand new body type. I can't recall if I've seen this before in any other figure, so this might be a brand new body for Christian, and it's a very accurate body for him too. Likewise, Brian Cage. I don't know if this is actually new or not, but it looks really great. I think it might be new. I can't recall seeing this in any other figures I have yet. And, you know, he is a pretty huge guy, so, I mean, he definitely needs to have a proper figure that's sized and scaled to his look. So whether or not it's new, I don't know, but it looks good. But there's just one really major problem, and again, it goes back to paint. Both these guys kind of have furry chests. It's a weird thing to talk about, but it's true. Brian Cage has kind of like some, you know, almost like Wolverine Hugh Jackman chest double. Christian, same thing too. These guys don't really shave their chests anymore. And I think you can even see that on their packaging photo as well. Like, they kind of got some fuzz going on there, and that fuzz is not painted in. If this was a Mattel figure, they would definitely have that fuzz there. Like, you know, you look at a Scott Hall, you look at a Seth Rollins, a Cesaro, they have their chest hair, and these guys don't. And that's honestly kind of a big part of their look, and you're missing out on it here, so instant point detractor for me. Let's keep going, though. Let's talk about outfits, and, you know, Christian has a really nice outfit, you know, really good work on the decal work, kind of the detail work, I should say, also, on his pants, around the waist as well. Like, that looks good. Nice tattoos as well. Otherwise, you know, his outfit's pretty simple. I mean, it really just is black with these two hideous-looking designs on the side, wherever they are supposed to be. And Brian Cage looks pretty cool, too. I mean, I like how they actually did sneak in his Weapon X's over there, his X's on his logo, his Wolverine scratch marks. Yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff here. I do wish it was a different, maybe, event they chose from, because I think this is kind of a boring look for him. I like black and white toys in general, though I do like black and white characters and black and white outfits, but he's had so many more interesting outfits during his time in AEW. I don't know why this was the one they went with. That's just a personal preference kind of thing. I hope they make more of him, but to be honest, considering how little he's been used on TV in like forever, this could be the only Brian Cage figure we get out of this series. So I had to kind of get it just because who knows what they'll do next. So I mean, for the most part, these two are definitely decent. but they could be better. There's definitely some kind of major points of improvement that I'm surprised that they overlooked in these two figures. And by the way, just for accessories, you guys already saw alternate head for Christian, alternate head for Brian, alternate hands as well for Christian too. I actually kind of got them mixed up right now, but here's a bunch of hands. I'm pretty sure they got one or two of these dudes. And if that seems a little bit lax to you, well, can you blame me? I'm a little bit still on tilt here, and yeah, I'm not really feeling these figures so far too much. I'm a little concerned about that. But hey, we got 2 more to go. Let's see how these two are, because these are the two I think I probably wanted the most out of Series 9. So let's go ahead and take a look at Thunder Rosa and Eddie Kingston. So let's talk about this Thunder Rosa here, because I already alluded to this earlier. Something's up with her leg, you guys. I took it right out of the packaging, and it's just like not in there. It's actually very loose. So you would think it would actually be going in there easier, but it's not. It's definitely not in there. Something is wrong, and I wonder if it's something wrong with the joint itself. And I don't want to pop it out, but she is defective, and I'm really annoyed by this. And I'm showing it off to you guys because I want to let you guys know about the quality control issue I'm having here. And even before I get into Eddie Kingston, it actually reminds me of something else I forgot to talk about with Starks. So check this out, you guys. Looking at the back of his boots, you can hopefully see it there. Let's see if I bend this over, it might be better. It's a little piece of plastic that wasn't trimmed off. That's a little bit of extra flash, and it's very sharp. So yeah, serious quality control issue right there. Surprised it made it out of the factory like that. And likewise the Thunder Rosa, like that is disappointing. I shouldn't have to be the person trimming Ricky Starks' really sharp boot, and likewise I shouldn't be the customer getting a Thunder Rosa that has a leg that is totally messed up. So I guess we're going to begin my journey on seeing if I can get something from AEW Jazzwares customer service, which I get the feeling I ain't getting anything from them based on prior communications with them. So yeah, let's start with these figures though, because this is a real situation of really good, not so good. So in my opinion, I think Thunder Rosa might be the best in this wave. It's a tough call. I think Christian and Hobbs are like definitely up there, but Thunder Rosa I would say is the best. Like that facial sculpt is perfect. The detail also on her face paint, like that's really great too. I think they did a wonderful job on that. Great accessories, great costume. I love the entrance gear as well. So actually I'm going to start taking off some of these things too, just so you guys get a better look. But yeah, I love the little headdress on her. I like this little poncho bit, which you can see from behind, by the way. You got Thunder Rosa right there. La Mera Mera. Really great looking, like wonderful texture on this part of her as well. Like this is cool. That's a really nice touch. And the hair looks good too, even if again, the hair is very one note and kind of bland. That part comes off, and you can see again a lot more of her outfit, which I'd say is pretty accurate. And yeah, I still have her entrance hands on here. I'm not going to take those off. Those look so cool. So you can see her outfit much better now from all angles. I mean, you saw what it looked like on the front of the packaging too, and I think they really got it here. I think they totally nailed her look again. I really like, again, the gold. Like, they really do a great job of that. Same like I said with Ricky Starks. You know, like when they do metallics on outfits, they really make them pop and shine, and that is much needed. I don't really think Mattel does that quite as much as Jazzwares does that with their figures. So again, like this head sculpt, perfect, great expression. This is like 100 out of 100. That's totally nailed it. I think also the body might be a little bit new. It's a little hard to tell. I might be wrong about that, but it feels like it's a new body type because it feels like she's a little bit smaller. And you know, we're gonna do some comparisons later on to see if that's true or not, but could be a new waist there. We'll find out about that. Now, Eddie Kingston, I think that is definitely a new sculpt here, top to bottom, because we have the singlet, and we also have this kind of gut over here, because, you know, you guys, Eddie Kingston, and this is not an insult, because I'm one to talk, but he's got a bit of a punch, you know, he's got a little bit of some extra chorizo in the tummy, if you will. So I kind of like that. While they didn't make it, you know, stick out a ton here either, they did make it a little bit rounder and a little bit less detailed. So at the very least, yeah, he does look like he's got a little bit of extra weight on him. Head sculpt here, again, this is a tough one for me. And we should add that Eddie does also come with an additional head sculpt, which has a much better expression, but I don't know what's up with these heads, you guys. Like, these don't look too much like him, and I think a lot of that is down to the paint job again. You look at the packaging photo of Eddie, and you look at Eddie in real life, and, you know, you'll see his beard. It's mostly stubble. It's not like this thick beard, and in the case of this toy here, it looks thick. Same with the other head, too. I mean, there's very little variation. I mean, there's some on the sides, but too little, too late. You know, it doesn't quite look right, and I think the sculpt is probably good on its own. Something about this paint job, the thin eyebrows, the way the eyes are painted and how kind of beady-eyed he looks also. There's a lack of depth, a lack of realism to this toy where that shouldn't be an issue. That's got to fall into the paint somewhere because, yeah, these don't look too much like him. That's really unfortunate. I really wanted an Eddie Kingston figure, and this doesn't do it. And the fact that his body is also so kind of weird. You know, again, I know they don't want to probably give him a gut, but right now he's like so tapered, it's almost like he's wearing a girdle, and that's even worse. I don't want a girdle Eddie Kingston. I want my chunky boy Eddie Kingston to come over and beat the crap out of my other figures. I don't want this. You know, the pants and the boots are basically recycled from Moxley parts, I'm pretty sure, so that's fine. It's whatever it is. It makes sense because they're using some new body parts this entire wave anyway, so why not recycle some stuff? They're wrestling toys after all, it's what you do. But yeah, you know, it's just the upper body and the head especially, it does not look too good. Likewise with his whole cross and rosary thing over here, this is just like, it almost looks like melted plastic. It's just so undetailed and bland and lame. I hate that too. Like, that should have been such a good accessory, and it looks like nothing. It just looks like a pile of brown. Now, in addition to Thunder Rosa's entrance gear, she also has 4 hands. So for a total of 6 hands there. And Eddie Kingston also has another 4 hands, so he also gets 6 hands and 2 heads. So you guys can see what I mean. I mean, as far as value goes and accessories, heads and hands, those should always be a given, I think, at least at wrestling toys. And they did not skimp out on this series. Everybody has stuff, and that's so great. They all have at least alternate heads or different hands. A lot of variety, but you can see it's a real mixed bag in this wave, you guys, and that disappoints me a lot because I really wanted to be blown away by this wave, and I feel like this would have been the one to do that. But let's go ahead and do a few quick figure comparisons here, and since I have Thunder Rosa in the ring, let's just do some other women characters first. So let's put our Thunder Rosa here in the middle, and I'm going to bring in a Elite Mattel Bayley. This is a fairly recent Bayley. It's like from a year or 2 ago when she first changed her look. I'm going to have her just resting against the ropes, I guess. We can't get her to stand. And I'm actually going to bring in Ty Conti. Everybody loves Ty Conti, right? I'm going to bring her in right now, get rid of these Eddie Kingston parts. And, you know, I had a lot of good things to say about her figure, actually. I thought she was one of the best in her wave that she came out with. And looking at her now, I still hold that true. She still looks pretty darn good. But you guys can see size-wise and everything, you know, they still scale up just nicely with Mattel figures here. That's great. Of course, articulation is like infinitely better on the Jazzwares figures, at least for the normal elites. But hey, everybody's looking good, everybody's in scale. That's what matters. Let's take a look at our Brian Cage. Let's bring in, well, how about we go, since we're talking about big muscly dudes, I can't think of too many more muscly figures that I currently have at my hands, then a Hogan. How about that Survivor Series Hogan? Because that's a pretty buff, pretty enormous looking figure. And from AEW, let's also bring in Wardlow, because that's a big, big dude here. And, you know, again, looking really nice side by side. Everybody here. You know, Brian Cage should look bigger than Wardlow as far as like his mass goes, because he's a pretty huge guy. They're both enormous. But, you know, I feel like Cage should definitely edge him out a little bit on the size, and he does. So that's good. I'm actually going to get rid of him for a second, though. I'm going to bring in Powerhouse Hobbs. I'm going to include him in this comparison here, mainly because, again, we're talking about all the big dudes right now, and this is 3 very beefy, beefy boys. So, you know, I'm looking in particular, though, at Wardlow's singlet versus our singlet over here on Powerhouse Hobbs. And there's a big difference here. The fact is, they got the singlet right on Wardlow, but they didn't really do that on Powerhouse Hobbs. It almost looks like they cut it off or trimmed it or something, because, you know, I think Hobbs does have like larger pectoral muscles, but it almost looks like these are the exact same things, almost. No, they're not. Okay, maybe they're based off similar things, because the muscle shapes look kind of the similar thing, but I don't know, maybe they added some like extra stuff on the sides here. That might be what they did, I don't know, but it almost looks like they trimmed off this bottom part here as opposed to what they did there. I don't quite know, but, you know, basically they did it right on Wardlow. Why couldn't they do it right on Powerhouse Hobbs? All right, let's talk about Eddie Kingston and Jon Moxley. So I had said earlier that he might be recycling the pants of Moxley. I was wrong. They are, in fact, different pants. They're bigger pants, in fact. They're similar looking, but they are different pants. So, hey, there's that, and those two figures look really good together, don't they? And I think it's also going to look really great together if we add, of course, why not? Let's add Santana and Ortiz into the mix, too. So now we got ourselves a real awesome stable right here. Wow, okay, so these guys all look great together. You know, I talked about these Santana and Ortiz figures like being one of my favorites also from the wave that they came out in, and I stand by that. Those two look still really great. It's unfortunate that seeing them with Eddie Kingston makes Eddie Kingston look even worse. That's not such a great thing, unfortunately. Now let's talk about articulation, because we haven't done that yet, and you know, I've already said in the past, these guys are much more articulated than the Mattel Elite figures. Not as much as an Ultimate, but they're close. So ball-jointed head, we have ball-jointed shoulders, and you can hear this wonderful clicking noise that they make when they move. These toys just feel so much more playable than like an Elite does. Something about the Elites, like they're great and all, don't get me wrong, but just the way they move, you know, these just feel much more fun to play with, I guess, and to pose. Double jointed elbows, which is great, and that's looking really good right there. Flexible, bendable, movable wrists. We have the torso that can move around as well. The waist that can move, and as you already saw, comes out. Great flexibility in the hip area. We got thigh twist. We got double jointed knees, which are covered up by elbow pads, by knee pads rather. And these elbow pads are very thick on Cage, unfortunately, so you can't do much with them. That's about as much as they do. The boots are cut though to move, and the ankles can move as well. So good articulation at least on these guys. You know, like great articulation. Really, let's be honest here. Like this is some superb articulation on these figures, and a great value for what you're getting. But unfortunately, and this is just the case of any wrestling toy, you know, if you got thick knee pads or thick elbow pads, that will hinder their articulation. So, final thoughts on AEW Unrivaled Series 9. This was a roller coaster ride that I do not want to get back on. I have to say, I'm actually not so looking forward to AEW figures in the future now. You know, this was a wave of characters that I really like, wrestlers who I really enjoy watching, and, you know, they're not just the typical guys. This is a whole new wave of characters we haven't seen from the company before. I had high hopes. I had really big expectations, and they did not meet my expectations. They actually kind of made my expectations worse. Like, they really dropped the ball on this one, you guys. Like, so many missed opportunities, so many little things that are off about them, and it all adds up, you know? So, you know, pros are the fact that everybody has a lot of hands, different heads. Like, that is great. What we are missing, of course, is more fabric or soft good accessories or entrance gear. I mean, really only Thunder Rosa has entrance gear, but that kind of makes sense for who we have here. I mean, Christian would have a t-shirt. That would really be it. So it makes sense everybody here is getting a lot of heads and a lot of hands, and I hope moving forward that is what we're going to see from all the figures now. I don't want any more figures that have no accessories. I don't want to waste my money on that garbage. Downside is the painting application on the heads in particular is still hit or miss. Some guys look amazing and they look perfect the way they should look. Others have bizarre paint jobs that just make them look foreign, make them look like aliens. It's not quite right. Ricky Starks especially, he looks like an orc from Lord of the Rings. He shouldn't look that way. I don't know what's going on with Eddie Kingston, but that's just not right at all either. Outfits for the most part are accurate and are painted well. You know, I really had very few complaints, if any, about paint job on any of these guys really, other than the heads. But you know, outfits and everything looks great to me. But there's a few things I gotta figure out, I guess, as they go on. And one of those things is gonna be what to do with Powerhouse Hobbs in particular and how they're gonna deal with that in the future. And also Eddie Kingston's body, you know, maybe they make him a little bit puffier. I don't know. I don't really care that much about it. But, you know, like I said, it looks like he's wearing a girdle. And I don't want my Eddie Kingston to wear a girdle because in real life, he don't wear a girdle. Quality control, another big problem here in this wave. You know, it's not like these are like killer issues for me, but it's annoying that Ricky Starks had a really sharp bit on his boot. And the fact that Thunder Rosa's leg, I don't know what's going on there. I gotta deal with customer service now. I'm not looking forward to that, you guys. I shouldn't have to do that. This is such a mixed bag that I really feel like this is hurting my joy and my enjoyment of these toys because they've kind of been hit or miss lately. There's been some small improvements made as they've gone along, but not really significant ones. And this is probably going to be the last wave I buy in completion, unless it really wows me. You know, like as of now, I can tell you guys, I bought the wave coming out that's going to have CM Punk in it, but I didn't get all the figures there either. I didn't get the Hangman Page because I didn't really want it. I kind of like it. Might get it eventually, but you know, even that wave, I didn't really want to buy all of them. I didn't really need another, I think it's another MJF's in that wave. Don't need it. You know, so I think the days of me buying entire waves are pretty much over for these Jazzwares figures, unless they make some real improvements. You know, I'm still excited about the Supreme line whenever those come here. I have very high hopes for those. I might just transition to only getting those. We're going to see, but you know, I'm far more disappointed than I feel like I should be here because there's a lot of good going on here. I mean, they even got new arm sculpts, new forearm sculpts for Christian there, which are really cool. Like, there's a lot of great elements to these toys, but there's just also a lot of important elements that are off or just not there. And that hurts this a lot for me. That really hurts it. The fact that I'm spending a lot of money on these too, because, you know, I'm not finding these in stores. I got to buy these from Ringside or wait and hope that they show up on GameStop or Amazon and other places. And that's hard to do. These things still are kind of scarce. And I don't think they're worth the price to pay for anything more than retail. So with that said, you know, I recommend them, but you've already seen what they look like. So pick and choose at your will, you know, like I'm sure we're going to have more of everybody that's looking at this table right now with the exception of Brian Cage, because who knows what the company is doing with him. So I don't know what they're going to do for toys either, but you know, I have high hopes that they'll make improvements to all these characters. So, you know, honestly, I would probably tell you to wait. You know, this is going to be one of those times where it's such a mixed bag. I would actually say hold off on all of these with the exception of Brian Cage. We're definitely going to get a better version of Ricky Starks. There will certainly be more versions of Thunder Rosa, of Christian, of Powerhouse Hobbs, and they got to do more of Eddie, for sure. Yeah, I'm gonna keep harping on Eddie because it bothers me so much. But yeah, you know what? This is going to be the wave that I say hold off on for now. And for whatever reason, I think you're going to have an easier time finding this wave too, so just be patient if you really want these. Or just wait for more versions of these guys to come out later on. So that's my look at AEW Unrivaled Series 9. I got a lot to say about them, but hey, I'd like to hear what you have to say about these too. So let me know what you think about them in the comments. Let me know if you think I'm being too harsh on these things. Let me know if you think I'm not being critical enough on them either. And more importantly, are you going to buy these figures for your collection? So until next time, I'm Matthew. This has been Nerd News Today. We'll see you guys here again for more action figure reviews, statue reviews, and everything else we do here, and all the things that are coming soon to this channel, so stay tuned.